Hey everybody, this is Mike from the One Stop Co-op Shop, and I'm recording the day after I got back from the Level Up retreat, the first one. This was in Connecticut. This was a retreat slash convention fully focused on playing games. It was like a giant ballroom, tons of tables, really big game library, and just playing games the entire time, so it was a lot of fun. And a disclaimer that the Level Up people did pay for my hotel room for attending the convention slash retreat. I didn't realize at the time I accepted that AdX Games and Level Up were like kind of the same company, because usually, as you all know, I don't like to take things from game publishers specifically. So if I go next year, I'll probably pay my own way, although, again, they were very generous and I really appreciated it. But yeah, I played a ton of games there. I'm going to talk through all of them. The cool thing is I literally had an awesome play session with every single one. I don't know if I've ever been at a convention where I enjoyed every game I played. Some of them are competitive only, but most of them are cooperative or at least have a solo mode. And I do have to give some shout outs. I think one of the reasons I had such a good time with each of the games is that I was playing with a ton of awesome content creators, many of whom I'd never met before. So just quickly go through them. I got to meet Jeff from the Dragon's Tomb, Brant from the Right Brain Rollers podcast, Meg of Professor Meg, Alex from Board Game Co., although I'd met him several times in the past, Grant Lyon, who was on our podcast a long time ago, but I'd never met in person, Anthony and Francis from Ant Lab Games, though, again, I've met them before in the past too, Jenna from the Board Game Garden, Devin from Devin Talks Tabletop, and finally, super awesome, I got to meet Amy and Maggie from Thinker Themer. They came in from Australia. But all right, let's get to the games and talk through what I thought about each of them briefly. So the first game is one that I brought. I hadn't played it yet, so I learned it at the con, and this is what I'm going to cover pretty soon. It's Masters of the Night from Ares Game. This is a solo up to, I think, 5-player cooperative game where you are a coterie of vampires trying to take over a city and make them all your blood slaves. A nice happy theme there. And this was the first game I played, and I really enjoyed it. It has a pretty tight action system, and it's this really interesting mechanic where you roll a big pool of dice, but then when you go into combat, you get to pick which die you use. So it's like a lot of input randomness, but no randomness at all when you actually like go in and fight and use the dice. And sometimes you like want to get rid of the weaker ones in fights you don't care about losing, so that was a pretty cool thing. Now, we did play a major rule wrong for the first half of the game that made it a lot easier, so I'm not sure yet how I'm going to feel about the difficulty, but the first play was a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed Masters of the Night, and yeah, I expect to do a playthrough and a review of that one sometime this year. The next game I played, one that Jason covered on the channel recently, I think it's on crowdfunding right now, was Stone Spine Architects. That's in the role player universe. What's the company that makes that? Thunderworks, I think. So if you didn't see Jason's preview, this is a solo or competitive game where you're kind of like building a dungeon. You're putting down 4 cards each round through a drafting mechanic, and then like putting tokens on the cards to make them worth different things, getting these challenge cards that give you ways to earn victory points, and you build eventually a 4x4 dungeon and try to make it the best one you can, like with paths and victory points and all those kind of things. And yeah, I thought this one was great. I did only play competitive, so I don't know how the solo mode is. Again, I would check out Jason's video if you want to hear about that. But I tend to like drafting games. This one was quick to play. There were a lot of things to think about, so it felt light at first, but it had a lot of depth if you wanted to go into it more. And yeah, there's one that I definitely would like to check out further later and play the solo mode too, maybe. So that's Stone Spine Architects. The next one I played was a fun, quick tile-laying game, competitive again with a solo mode that looks pretty involved, so I would like to check this one out. It wasn't on my radar at all, and that's called Trailblazers. And the game goes in 4 rounds, I think, and in each round, it's again a drafting game. You're getting 8 cards and passing them around, and you're building off of these 3 different trailheads with different colors, but all your trails are kind of like intersecting, and you're trying to make complete paths that go from like one side and reconnect to another side of the same trail, and then there's like these victory cards that earn you more points. It was really chill. It was really fun. I played the game wrong for like 90% of the game. I didn't realize I could overlap cards like you can in Sprawlopolis, which gives you a lot more options. So I was playing kind of dumb, but I still really like this. And yeah, the solo mode looks interesting because there's like these, I think, extra like modules and things you can do. And I definitely want to try it out. So that was Trailblazers. The fourth game I played is one I've played and covered on the channel before, and that is Moonrakers. But I covered the solo mode, which I thought was pretty good. They also have a solo co-op like app enabled expansion, or not expansion, like mode called Luminor that works well. But this is the first time I had played a full player count, 5-player competitive game of Moonrakers. And this is it's like deck building. You're trying to get the right icons from the cards in your deck by like drawing and managing your actions to beat these challenges. And it's very heavily based on negotiation, like trying to get other players to help you and trying to help them so you can each beat missions and so you can like pull ahead of the pack. And I never played a 5-player competitive game of it, and it was a blast. I definitely think, the game went longer because there's so many of us negotiating and stuff. But yeah, I think it's a fun solo game. It's a fun solo co-op game. I think it really shines in the competitive sphere with that negotiation element. So again, that was Moonrakers. Then we've got another one that I brought that I had not played. I was sort of mixing pleasure and homework because I was trying to learn games that I know need to cover on the channel. This one is The City of the Great Machine. This is a one versus many or solo co-op game, and the solo co-op is actually quite involved, so it's not like they just threw together a little extra module. You are, in the solo co-op, you are humans trying to stop a great AI machine from taking over this flying city and kind of dominating the world. Threads of BioShock Infinite there. And yeah, I ended up having a blast with this one. I'll definitely be doing another play and review of this at some point on the channel, but there's these really cool turn-to-turn missions you have to do that give you some focus and try to distract you from your main mission, because you're mainly trying to get the townspeople to riot and revolt against the machines. There's a fighting machine mechanic with dice. I think I might house rule that, even though I usually hate house rules because it was very swingy, whether you would lose your whole action or break the guard. But besides that, I thought this game was excellent. And I think when they sent me the review copy, I think they sent me some extra modules to change up the gameplay. I want to check those out. But yes, I had a great time with City of the Great Machine. I'll definitely be covering that soon. Then for something completely different, at the end of the first night, I played some kind of partier-ish games with a bunch of people. The first one was That's Not a Hat. This game is ridiculous. It's from Ravensburger. The basic idea is each player has a card in front of them, face up to start, that has an object on it like socks or a radio or something. And then they all get flipped down and they're getting passed around the board, and you say, here, have this hat. And then they say, thank you for this hat. Or they can say, that's not a hat. And why would they say that? Because more cards keep getting added and they keep on getting passed around all face down. And at some point, you're going to forget what the cards are. So you'll be like, I don't know what this is. And you'll say, here's a hat. And then if they think that what you just passed them is not actually what you said it was, they can challenge you by saying, that's not a hat. And they flip up the card. If they're right and it's not a hat, you get the card as a negative point, basically. But if they're wrong and it was a hat, then they get the card. You play until somebody gets 3 bad cards, and then that's the end of the round. And that's it. It's goofy. It's fun. I definitely want to pick it up. I think it's a cheap game from Ravensburger. I'm not sure if it's in the US, but hopefully it is. But yeah, a total blast. If you can get a big group together. It seems like it's best with a lot of people. I think we were playing with 7 or 8. It was awesome. So that game was That's Not a Hat. And then the last game I played on Friday was an old favorite, So Clover. Still recommendation. I've already reviewed it on the channel. I've said many times it's one of my top party casual games. If you don't know it, this is where you're putting 4 cards on a clover, and then you get pairs of words, and you have to write a one-word clue to somehow combine those words together, and then the other players have to cooperatively recreate your clues. It's great. Highly recommend. That, Just One, Code Names, my trilogy of casual gaming awesomeness. Definitely check out So Clover if you haven't played it before. Okay, then getting into Saturday, we started with a big one. I taught a couple other players, including Brant from the Right Brain Games. Did I say that right? Podcast. I taught him and another player The Witcher. And this is the second time I've played this. I've only played it competitively so far. I've been waiting because the solo mode in the base game is not supposed to be great. This is a 1, 2, 4, or 5-player competitive game based on the Witcher franchise, the monster hunting franchise. There was in the Kickstarter the Wild Hunt expansion, which is cooperative, but you can't get that yet. There's no way to buy it if you didn't get the Kickstarter version of the game, which is not what they sent me. And then there's also the Legendary Hunt expansion, which is supposed to make the solo play way better. So I'm hoping they'll send me that before I cover it. If it takes too long, I might just have to do a video on the channel. But here's the thing. I played it twice competitive. I wouldn't recommend it at 3+ players because it does take a while. There's a lot of downtime, but man, I love so much about this game. It's got a overland movement thing where you're moving around and leveling up. It's got a fun event card, quest card with a little story mechanic that's really fun. Kind of reminds me of something like Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror, and drawing your little encounter cards. And then the deck building combat is awesome. It's like a pared down version of Tainted Grails combat where you're matching cards with other cards and comboing them. It's super fast. It's really tense, and it's just a lot of fun. So yeah, The Witcher, I hope that I get the Legendary Hunt expansion. I might buy it myself if they don't send it, just to get the best version of solo play out there. But so far, for a 2-player, maybe 3-player, because again, the downtime does get kind of bad, game, I think this is awesome. So that's The Witcher, The Old World, I think the subtitle is. Then after that, I played a really quick one called Hero Hockey. This is basically Clask, but a little bit different. If you don't know Clask, you have like a magnet under a board, and you're each trying to like hit something into the other person's goal. Same thing here, except you're hockey players, and you're like your little piece on the top that you're magnetized to has a stick. It was fun. Clask is fun. This is fun. I think Clask is much more expensive. It is a little bit better built, whereas Hero Hockey felt a little bit more flimsy, but it was still a great time. So if you have kids, if you have casual people, if you like dexterity games, I usually don't, but this was a ton of fun. Definitely recommend Hero Hockey or Clask. Then Jeff from the Dragon's Tomb taught me Castell, which Peter actually owned for a while back in the day, and I think he like traded it or sold it unopened. But it was pretty fun. This is a competitive only, I don't think there is a solo mode for this one, game where you're like acrobats, an acrobat troupe traveling around Catalonia, Spain, and putting on shows. And the whole idea is you're like leveling up your stats, and then you're stacking like your acrobats, like the strongest at the bottom, and the next level up there. And you're trying to like form certain formations and try to earn the most points. It was a fun little Euro. It didn't do anything like super new except for that stacking, but I found that mechanic to be really interesting, both like visually and mechanically. So one that I'll never cover because it has no solo or co-op mode, but Castell was a lot of fun. And then an awesome game. I got to meet Carl Van Osten, sorry if I pronounced the name wrong, the designer of Merchant's Cove that we've covered previously. And then his game it already crowdfunded. This is Bardwood Grove, by the way. It already crowdfunded, but I think it's delivering later this year. And this was great. So this also has a solo mode. I played competitive, just to be clear. I was also playing with Henry Audubon, who designed Parks and Cosmoctopus. He's a friend from previous conventions. But yeah, so Bardwood Grove, first of all, it's got a theme that I love. You are bards, like, wandering around, making songs, playing, like, gigs in fantasy pubs, charming, like, woodland creatures and stuff. It's kind of a deck builder. It has this interesting mechanic where a lot of turns are super fast, but then you'll eventually play your song. So you're like putting out cards and kind of like a little tableau to build up the abilities that are going to happen when you do your song. And then when you play your song, it's when you actually like activate buildings around you with your music. Final Frontier does really nice production. So even though it wasn't quite a full production version of the game, it still looked beautiful. I'm going to try to get a copy to cover the solo mode because from what Carl was saying, it apparently has like unlockables and like lots of modules. If you've played Merchant's Cove or Final Frontier's other stuff, they tend to do like a lot of like fun things with the solo, and it's not just like a basic mode. But I thought the competitive play was beautiful. I thought Bardwood Grove was really, really fun. And then almost done. The last 2 games I played at the convention before I had to head home early to hang out with my family and drive for 6 hours was Race to the Raft. This is another one that I should be covering on the channel. I mean, gosh, hopefully before Gen Con, we'll see, but sometime in the next like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe. And this is a fully cooperative game. It's based on Isle of Cats because it's from Frank West's company. I can't remember what it's called now. But it's like the Isle of Cats is now sinking, like a volcano exploded or something. So you have these tiles for movement, and they're being covered by fire. And the basic idea is the players are cooperatively, with limited communication, putting out tiles on the board to form paths of different colors for the different colored cats to make it to the raft. But each time you put down a tile, you also have to draw from a polyomino bag of fire and find a way to fit that down on the board. And you don't want to lock the, cats off or get them burned to death. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I didn't get to see much of it because apparently it's like 80 scenarios, sort of like the cruise style, where they add like little extra modules and complications and things. So I think we just played one of the most basic ones. But I like limited communication games. I like quick, fun, light cooperative games. And again, I should be covering this one pretty soon. I think it might be even coming this week. So yeah, Race to the Raft, definitely a lot of fun. And then the very last one, the Thinker Themer ladies taught us, was called Nana, and it's only in Japan right now, so I don't know if you can actually get this one, but it's competitive only. And how do they describe it? It's sort of like a mix of Memory and Go Fish, but it's not like that at all. So you'll have a hand of cards with values 1 through 12, and you have to order them in ascending order. And then on your turn, you can ask anybody, or there's some cards in the front row, and you go one at a time, and you can say, show me your lowest card or your highest cards. You can't access the middle values. And let's say they had a 1. Okay, then I'm like, all right, now you show me your highest value. Ooh, you also have a 1. And then what you're trying to do is find 3 of a kind. There's 3 of each card somewhere in the player's hands and on the board. And once you get a 3 of a kind, you take it. And, if you get enough of those, you can win. But it's all about like trying to remember where everything is, trying to jump on opportunities, trying to make the cards in your own hand work for you. It was really cool. Again, I don't know if you can find it anywhere, but you could recreate it. You just need 12 cards and 3 suits, basically. So a regular deck of cards would technically work as long as people know that a king is higher than a queen. So yeah, that was Nana, and it was a lot of fun. And that was the Level Up retreat. Got to play a ton of games in just the 2 days I was there. And yeah, I think if they do it again next year, I would like to go again. I would want to pay my own way because, again, I didn't realize it was like a game publisher putting it on. And y'all know, again, that's not usually my thing. Like, I feel uncomfortable when people send me swords and things. But still a really good time. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of these same content creators at Gen Con, my first time going to that, which will be, I think, a very different convention. This was just play games and have fun. I think that'll be a lot more chaotic. But I'll have another video to talk about what I played at Gen Con once that is done. For now, good gaming, everyone, and I'll see you at the next stop.